Welcome to the Art of Classiness podcast, a show where we redefine what it means to be a classy lady. And sometimes it's messy. I'm Robin.
And I'm Deborah, two friends turned classy ladies who are here to discuss life's ups and downs, navigating the complexities of adulthood, and how the gift of friendship is essential to belonging.
Breakups and divorces don't just affect the couple, they impact friendships too. Maybe you lost a friend in the split or weren't sure how to support someone through heartbreak.
Today, we're exploring how breakups reshape friendships, how to navigate those shifts, and when letting go is the right move.
So follow along, give us your feedback, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
What's up, classy ladies and gentlemen? Robin, let's do a little check-in. How have you been?
I've been better.
Great.
But not in the worst way. It's kind of a terrible way. I'm being treated for various gut issues.
Oh, no.
I've been diagnosed with leaky gut, a parasite, and H. pylori, which H. pylori can be found at low amounts in a lot of people, but when there's too much, it causes a lot of bloating and burping.
Oh, no.
So I'm taking medications for that, and the die-off is creating a lot of discomfort. I get like headaches every day and like super bloated. But every day it's a little bit better. And I'm just focusing on getting to the end of this treatment. I know it's going to pay off. It sucks to feel like crap, but I'm keeping that end game in mind. Eye on the prize. We're going to get there.
You're going to get there.
Everything will be fine.
I don't want to be too gross, but I feel we really skipped over the parasite part. And
I try.
I understand, and I get it. But I know if I'm a listener, I need to know more information. I need to know more, and as much as you want to share, but we need to know about the parasite.
I would have to pull out the paperwork to see what it's actually called, because it's one of those long names that no one knows how to pronounce. But he did say it was a more common type of parasite. You could get it from eating some like dirty fruit or vegetables. Like that's just one way to get it. That's one of the examples he gave. Like we wash our fruit and veggies, but yeah, there's no telling.
Right.
And I've had gut problems for the last 4.5 years. This was my third GI map test in 4 years because I keep having to go back to it, right? And I'm really hoping that because I've addressed the autoimmune side of things and my blood work looked really good, I'm hoping that now that we're focusing on the gut stuff, everything's able to correct itself in a way that I feel actually accomplished, because there have been many times where I feel like nothing happened, but I've spent all this time and money on trying and trying. So I'm actually really hopeful this time, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone here is going to feverishly be washing their fruits and veggies here on out, just in case. And yeah, keep us posted. Hang in there. Your poor gut has just literally been through so much. So the end is near. I can feel it. Well, my problems feel completely insignificant in comparison to yours, because what I'm going to complain about is that it is the time of year in which the school gives my child a recorder to practice.
Oh, I remember that.
Oh my God.
That was right at Max's age. Yep, 5th grade.
And it is just hot cross buns and ode to joy on repeat. Now, on one hand, it's adorable that he's taken to it so much. Like he really enjoys playing it. And I love seeing his musical tastes expand, because neither him or my youngest really have shown a great interest in music. I would love to have had kids that dance.
Yes.
You know, you see videos of toddlers and they just got natural. They have to dance. My kids have never been like that. So I'm just happy that Max is starting to learn and appreciate music. But man, do I just want to break that instrument over my knee. I actually said that to him this morning because he was just blowing it. Like, George is trying to watch TV before school. Max is just playing away, like going so hard on it. I have a great room, so the echoing is just off the walls, literally. And I was like, you don't need to play that in your bedroom, otherwise I'm going to crack it over my knee. Like, I couldn't help it. I'm like, I'm overstimulated. I'm underslept. This is the last day of the school week. Like, please.
She's a low stem girly.
I'm a low stem girly, and the recorder is putting me over the edge. So whoever in the Department of Education was like, do you know what kids need? They need to go home and blow on this whistle-like instrument for 2 to 3 months so that their parents banish them to the basement. I need to know who started this trend because I'm not liking it, but we're getting through. We're going to be fine. And then they go to Europe for 2 weeks next week. So I keep reminding myself, you're going to have a very quiet house and it's going to make you sad. So enjoy the noise, enjoy your time with them, because I know I'm going to be missing them so hard here very shortly. So today's Classy Convo, we are talking about breakups, heartbreak, and how it impacts your friendships. So have you ever had a friendship change after a breakup or divorce? Maybe you even lost a friend in a split, or you had a friend going through a heartbreak and you just didn't know how to support them. We're going to talk about all those things, the way the dynamics might change, and discuss some solutions that may help you help your friend through these challenging times.
Right. We always focus on the people going through a breakup and divorce, but what about the friendships? And that's what we're going to talk about today, the dividing of friends dilemma.
Yes. It's one thing to divide the things in the house. How do you divide the people in your lives?
I feel like when a breakup happens, suddenly people start treating friendships like custody battle.
Yeah, it can be.
Sometimes I have won and sometimes I have lost drastically.
Ain't that the truth? It is so tricky. And I honestly often think about my own divorce because, just for a little backstory, I know we've talked about this a little bit before. I was married, I think legally for 11 years, and we got divorced, but it was after we moved from Austin to Ohio. And I think a good thing that happened from that is that I didn't have to feel that friendship shift too much. But I always wonder, what would things have been like if we had gotten a divorce in Austin? How differently would that have shaped our friend group? Because we were all very intertwined. It was like our friends and their partners. Most of them were married, so my best girlfriends, their husbands, we all kind of put them together in a room. Your boys, you guys get along over here. And I think that my ex-husband did have genuine friendships with the guys in our group. But we were kind of the central hub a lot of times for hanging out. We hosted a lot of our holidays and birthdays at our house. And I do really often think what would have happened if we had gotten divorced there.
I know one thing that would have been different. You and John have created an amazing co-parenting relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I can only see that being easier for you here because no one's going to cut John off.
Yeah.
We all hung out at Lauren's wedding and you guys were already separated and it was fine, actually.
Yeah. We've talked about our friend Lauren's wedding in the past. It was in Chicago. We had a fantastic time with everyone. But one part of that story we haven't really told is that my ex-husband married our friends. So he was the officiant for that ceremony.
Yes.
And we were separated for about 6 months at this point. And it's crazy to me how comfortable I was in that dynamic even then. Although I will say I cried much harder than I needed to when he was giving his, I don't know if sermon is the right word, but he gave a beautiful speech before having them do their vows. And he really depicted what is necessary to keep a marriage going in that speech.
Oof, that's rough.
And it was both heartbreaking and beautiful to hear him articulate what is necessary so beautifully. And it was heartbreaking because it was not something that we could do.
Yeah.
So I was crying some real tears. I think people around me were concerned, rightfully so. But, afterwards I gave him a big hug and was just full of tears. And he really comforted me. And I just let him know that what he had just done was beautiful. Not only the speech itself, but just the act of what he was able to perform. But I think that is a great illumination of how we were able to manage those dynamics. Lauren is one of my best friends since 7th grade.
Yeah.
So the fact that she was able to maintain that friendship with him so much to the point where she asked him to officiate the wedding after we were separated, mind you. This wasn't like, oh, this is awkward. I'd already asked him a year ago. They planned their wedding in 2.5 months. So, but her and her husband asked me if that would be okay. And I'm like, absolutely. You're going to get a great ceremony from him because he's officiated weddings in the past. But I never thought, hey, is this awkward for anyone else? Was it awkward to have us be at that wedding together, but not together?
It was only slightly awkward in the sense that I didn't know the relationship y'all had together at that point because you're in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that was my first time to see John since you guys had moved away.
Yeah.
So it was awkward in a few ways. Like, he and I were never really close in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I can only speak from my own experience. I thought it was kind of weird that y'all were hanging out, but if you're saying you felt fine, then it was fine.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't mind him being there. He's a good guy. He's funny.
Yeah. And we all stayed in the same house. Him and I stayed in the same room. There was one room in the Airbnb that just had like 5 twin beds. It was where all the single people had to sleep.
I was in that room.
And it's crazy to me looking back that was just a non-event in my brain. But unfortunately, that is not always the case for other people. We were very fortunate, but today we're going to talk about dynamics where you really may lose a few friends once the relationship is over.
What do you do when mutual friendships are caught in the middle?
I think there is a responsibility to follow the lead of the people in the breakup. If you are a friend, I think that if you're the kind of person that you are genuinely friends with both people, having conversations with each of them just to kind of get a better understanding of how they're feeling, where they're at, what their comfort level is. I think with my ex, I never wanted anyone to villainize him. I still often speak highly of him and kind of will quiet any conversation where people try to do the thing where they're like, fuck him. And I'm like, no, it's not like that. We're cool. But some people really want to rally you on their side, and they would put the campaign on to make sure you're not going to hang out with that person anymore.
Sometimes it feels a full-out war, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, some people treat breakups that way. You're on my side or you're on his side.
Yeah.
That's it. Cut and dry. And that can be frustrating because just because your relationship crashed and burned doesn't mean I have to stop talking to this person completely unless they did something really messed up.
Right. It is like and obviously there's always 2 sides to a story.
Yeah.
But I think if you are closer with one than the other, you need to both establish boundaries with each other.
Yeah.
I don't think it's healthy to be in a dynamic where someone is like my way or the highway, because that is probably going to bleed over into other behaviors in their life and could just be an indication that they might not be the right person to be in your friendship group.
And who wants to feel like they're doing something wrong?
Right.
Somebody just trying to enjoy their life and enjoy people's company. If so-and-so happens to be there and your friend finds out, like, to get in trouble about that is kind of silly to me.
Right. Exactly.
It's different if you're like hanging out one-on-one, and I don't know if that's, again, it depends on the level of your friendship. But
yeah,
group settings, I think, is fine.
Yeah. So you might be in a dynamic where maybe both friends are wanting your attention and vying for your support. But sometimes you have a friend in the breakup that is like, you know what, I'm just going to do my own thing for a little bit. And they might pull themselves away from that group post-breakup. So how do you handle those situations?
I think thinking of you text is always a solid go-to because you're not forcing them to make any kind of decision and you're not pressuring them to talk about something that they're not ready to talk about. Because that's usually what it means. They disappear. I've done that from loss. I didn't get out of bed for a month.
Mm-hmm.
And breakups feel that way too. You're grieving a loss. So
Definitely.
It's completely understandable if someone just needs to watch trash TV and not speak to anybody for a few weeks. But yeah, you can always send that thinking of you text just to let them know whenever you're ready.
Right.
I'm here.
I think those words are so key. Whenever you're ready. It's acknowledging, I understand you need space.
When one friend disappears after a breakup, I think some people wonder whether or not that friendship is severed permanently.
Mm-hmm.
And it might change your friendship depending on how your relationship affected your friendship with that person or those people. It's hard to pick a side. It's hard to stay neutral. And I think it's okay to pick a side.
Oh.
we all have our own friends. They have their own friends. And then there's friends that we make together.
Yeah.
I know that my friends have my back.
Mm-hmm.
I know that maybe over time I can form relationships with our mutual friends or friends that I got close to when dating that person.
Mm-hmm.
But I would definitely give it time. That's just when I think about picking sides. I think sometimes it's obvious.
Right.
And when you're trying to be neutral, it's really giving time and space. Like, wait a few months before you reach out to those other friends. Because you don't know what your ex-partner, ex-boyfriend or girlfriend is going through. You don't know how they're needing their friends to show up for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to just like drop the idea of reaching out to them for a second.
Yeah. So speaking of disappearing, what about when a friend enters a new relationship after they've moved on and they disappear?
I mean, how many times do you see that play out in sitcoms?
I mean, here's the thing. There is such a repeatable evolution that happens post-breakup, post-divorce, that I'm just going to speak to the female experience because that's the one I'm familiar with. You obviously have your heartbreak, right? You're in bed, you're crying, you're getting rid of things, you're going through that really raw grieving process. But then when you wake up and you realize like, oh, I get to be single, then you go through sometimes a manic phase of going out. So you might lose somebody even before they enter a new relationship because now their social life is wildly different than it was before. They want to go out to bars. They want to go to a festival. They're all of a sudden doing yoga. All of a sudden they want to be a certified yoga instructor, right? Like you have this manic energy of changing your life when you become single. And for some people, that is going off and doing their own thing that no longer aligns with maybe a group of friends that are settled couples. Because when you're a settled couple in your 30s, you just want to sit.
Yes.
There's a great How I Met Your Mother episode. They only want to go to bars and clubs that have seating. And when you're the single one, you want to be moving and dancing. So maybe your post 9-to-5 life starts to look drastically different. And then that friend, they're kind of off doing their own thing. So how do you manage staying friends with someone that's in a wildly different social dynamic than you?
So I've actually experienced this myself, but I also want to bring up an episode of Parks and Rec where Leslie calls Anne out for changing into whoever the person is that she's dating.
Oh, yeah.
Because like she was dating some cowboy and she was dressing up like a cowgirl. Like, that's not you, girl.
Yep.
And they had a fight. Leslie didn't address it in the best way, but, you know, Anne realized that Leslie was right.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I need to start dating myself before I can date someone else.
Yep.
And I thought that was a really great solution for her. So I think like when you're dealing with this in real life, if you're the one going through the breakup, maybe consider like what changes are actually helping you grow and what changes are helping you put a Band-Aid on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've done both. There was a time where I just didn't want to think about it and wanted to be out constantly. Because if I was at home, that means I was alone with my thoughts.
Yeah.
And I did have to try to make new friends who were going out on the weekends because all of my closest friends have kids and are married.
Yeah.
So like I totally identify with that feeling. It's really difficult when you're trying to get back out there and you don't have your go-to crew. It's a whole thing.
It is a whole thing. And I think navigating that time period post-breakup with your friend can potentially bring out new elements of your friendship, right? Very similar to being in a relationship. Every once in a while, you need things to shake it up, right? So maybe you can leave the kids with the babysitter and hang out with your friend one night. You can't do it all the time, but every once in a while you can. Or maybe you have had it and you got to the point where you say, listen, you have gone out every single night this week. And I think we should talk about how you are actually coping because this feels like an escape. And the friend that will actually call you out on your shit is a real one. You might not want to hear it at the time. God knows how many times I rolled my eyes when I started dating very, very soon into being separated. And people are like, are you sure you've given yourself enough time? Like, you could not tell me otherwise. But the people who were strong enough to give me that feedback were truly the ones that cared about me. So you're going to have to sometimes know when to hold them and know when to fold them, as someone once said, when it comes to giving them that tough feedback. Sometimes you got to drink with them. Sometimes you got to tell them to put the bottle down. But you have to know that they're trying to figure out this next phase in their life. And you could be a reminder to them that they don't have their shit together. Right?
Yeah.
So be sensitive to that when you're navigating that part of the breakup.
Right. And it can be emotionally exhausting for the friend, especially when they have their own life stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's maybe kind of where you find the balance, is supporting them and then finding opportunities to call them out.
Right. Right.
It's like gentle nudges, because you could end up feeling like you're doing all the work. And then you might feel like, well, is this friendship even worth fighting for? Like, I'm doing everything to support this friend. They're not giving me anything to work with here. How do you deal with that?
I think, again, the best thing to do is remind them that you love them and you care about them. Know that sometimes people just need to go into orbit for a little bit before they return. And just be what Dr. Phil likes to say, be a soft place for them to land.
Oh.
And that's sometimes all you can do. And if they come back, then you were meant to be friends. This could also be the precipice in which they go their own way. But lead with grace and lead with love. And I think that you will find your way back to each other.
Be that 3-ply toilet paper.
Okay. Help them get the shit off.
No, somewhere soft to land. Their booty landing.
Oh.
That was terrible. You said somewhere soft to land, and I thought 3-ply toilet paper.
I mean, that does make sense because I'm thinking about those commercials.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Before we move on, I want to talk about the first year after a divorce or a breakup. Like, let's talk about the first that hits hardest after a breakup. Your first birthday alone, your first holiday, your first time seeing your ex with someone new. Like, this is when you really find out who your friends are, not just who checks in, but also who invites you out to things, so that you don't feel like you're a sad, single, sappy downer.
Yeah, that can always be hard if you are on social media and you see your friends went on like a triple date. And you're like, oh, okay. So there's the milestones that you deal with as the, person going through the breakup. And then there's also the milestones that as a friend group, you kind of have to navigate. How do we incorporate these other people? So again, I often think like, if we were in Austin, how would I handle something like the first Thanksgiving, where we normally are all going to be together with our friends? We might even be hosting, Are they going to want to invite both of us? Should we both go? Should we trade off holidays with people?
It's a custody battle.
It's a custody battle sometimes. And I really do wonder how that would have kind of come into fruition, because we were really not only involved with our friends, but we were also involved in the city stuff itself, like, would we have both tried to go to Austin city limits, and fight over like who has to stay home with the kids, because both of us want to go? Or like, would both of us be fighting over like, oh, it's Evan's birthday and they rented a house and everyone's going to be there. Do I ask him not to go to that? Or am I like, well, it's a guy party, so maybe you can go and I'll sit this one out? Like, you navigate it with the partner if you're on speaking terms like that, but your friends also have to navigate. Like, do we invite them? Do we not invite them? Who gets to invite the person? Like, I think Friends did a really good job when Ross and Rachel broke up. There was a few episodes where they were like, both Ross and Rachel were trying to create really fun things to do to like get their friends to hang out with them, and kind of compete as like who is the cooler friend.
Yeah.
Because that can definitely happen if you have a group dynamic like that.
I think it's definitely possible to eventually like spend time with your ex sometimes.
100%.
In a friend group setting. It's probably rare, but it is possible. It's just, how bad do you want it?
Yeah, you bring up a good point because we have had friends in our group over the years that were dating and then broke up. And everybody else in that friendship dynamic were all still hanging out. And there were periods of time where she would not go to certain gatherings and other times where he would not go. And a lot of times where they were in the same room at the same time. But I think they were both very cordial and never wanted people to feel alienated because they were both there.
Yeah.
And, with time, I honestly stopped remembering that they even dated because they got to a point where it was like so cordial. So it is possible, I think, if you give enough people grace, if you don't make your relationship shit everybody else's relationship shit, it can go a lot easier.
Relationship shit.
It's not easy to say. I can't believe I did it twice in a row.
Shit. So we've talked about how friendships shift after a breakup, but what happens when they don't survive at all? Let's get into why friendships don't survive a breakup or divorce.
Oof, yeah. Well, I think one big reason is maybe the friend is the one in the wrong. Nobody wants to say it, but sometimes your friend was the asshole. Sometimes your friend was the one that really fucked it up for themselves. And it could expose a side of them that you didn't know about. And how they handle that breakup or divorce really airs out a lot of their ugly characteristics that are hard to get over.
Whew, that's a really good point.
I mean, unfortunately, sometimes there is a person in the wrong, And I will also say sometimes a breakup between a couple exposes both people as terrible, and then you're not friends with either of them. I've been in that situation where I watched a relationship and, form, and they were part of our friend group, and then the relationship became very toxic. We all consulted each party about the worrying behavior we were seeing.
We really tried.
Really tried to say, I don't think that you guys are bringing out the best in each other, which alienated them from us. And when that relationship fell apart, neither of them are in our lives anymore. And it's because of how bad it got towards the end. So sometimes it's a really good way to just cleanse the friend group and get rid of toxicity.
Well, it wasn't even how bad it got. It's how they managed their friendships with us.
Yes.
We were in the middle of their fights, and that's not okay.
No. Sometimes even the subject of their fights.
Yes. That's what was really terrible, is that they were not sensitive to that. Okay, maybe this night is over. Sorry, guys, you need to leave. We clearly have some things to work out.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. They just kept going.
Nope. The show was on. That was a rough time.
I always forget about that until you remind me.
It's a dark era in the group. But yeah, so sometimes that can be a great way for them to take the exit. But that's not always the case.
You could have misaligned values in how you each handle the breakup.
Mm-hmm.
If one person wants to heal and grow while the other wants to drown in tequila and bad decisions, you have to be a different kind of friend for each of those people. And sometimes it's the same person.
Yeah. And I think another pain point that could create a conflict you can't get over is your friend uses you as a therapist, but then refuses to get therapy. And sometimes you got to say, you know what? I have done all I can do. And if you're not willing to help yourself, there is really nothing more I can help with.
It can be emotionally exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like some friendships post-breakup survive in a downgraded way. And I think this is a bit what I was talking about earlier. You still send each other memes on social media, but you don't actually hang out anymore, but maybe you could hang out eventually.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all it needs to be. Not every friendship needs to be fought for. Sometimes it just shifts into something different. And breakups are always going to cause that shift. It's about how you manage it and how you manage that with your friends.
Yeah. Memes are the great unifier. They really are. Just sending somebody a hilarious meme over the internet is a great icebreaker. Sometimes it's a good reminder of a situation you've both been in before. Sometimes it is a good way to just show somebody, hey, I still remember this very specific thing about you. And a lot of times I get a meme from someone I haven't talked to in a long time. And I'm like, oh my God, they remember this thing, and it can be either just something that you appreciate in the moment and then move on. Other times you're like, you know what? We need to actually get coffee. Let's meet up. Let's catch up. So,
yeah.
Everyone jokes about how cold or one-dimensional it is to just like have that friend that all you do is share memes. I think it is a great friendship communication style, quite frankly. It's a love language.
Yes. If one is depressed, for example, and you can't be bothered to reply to a text, but you are doom scrolling and happy to send hilarious things to your friends, I think that's a nice middle ground just to let your friends know, I'm still here.
Right.
Just not ready. Hopefully you can tell your friends that, but it is a great communication option when you don't actually want to talk. I've been there too.
We absolutely all have. Yeah.
So when is it the right time to decide that you should let go, or if you think it's repairable?
Well, let's talk about letting go first, because I think this is a choice that people avoid making, but often it can be the right one. If you feel like your friendship is so one-sided that you were, like I was saying, only there to be the therapist, and you have your own shit that you're going through, but there's no room for you to even talk about what's going on in your life. Just because you're not going through a breakup doesn't mean you're not going through a difficult time with something completely unrelated. So if you're starting to feel like it is totally one-sided and then the person is not being there for you and you've told them and they don't seem to change their behavior, then I would feel used enough to maybe not want to pursue a friendship anymore.
Yeah, and like how much time has passed, right? People have allowances to be a certain way for so long.
Yeah.
And you can grieve for as long as you need to. You can take as long as you need to heal. But your friends need their friend too. They're there for you, but they also want their friend. And if you're not providing that service, your friend is just going to feel drained and resentful.
Right.
And way less connected to you. It's a really easy way for things to fall off.
Yeah, absolutely. If they're starting to make you feel guilty that you're not like being on their side enough, or that you're not, like, for example, if you have that friend that it is important to them that you hate their ex as much as they hate their ex, and they are making you feel bad for not like...
Right. We were talking about earlier.
Yeah. I can't do that. You know what I mean? I don't want to just be a mouthpiece on your behalf. I'm not going to just change my opinion of someone based solely on your experience. Now, I'm going to take what you're saying into consideration, but trashing people is just not really something I like doing. So thankfully, it's not always terrible, right? Friends can make mistakes and there's still room for forgiveness and reconciliation. So what are some things you should keep in consideration if you're thinking about repairing a friendship with a friend that has strayed away post-breakup?
Well, if you still have mutual respect for each other, definitely try to repair it. Like, your friendship may be strained and you're going through a little bump in the road, but that doesn't have to mean it's over.
Yeah, absolutely. It really hinges upon your friend's behavior. If they're the ones that pulled away, that were acting up, that needed too much from you, that you needed to take a break, if they can acknowledge that they were in the wrong, if they can come to you and own their shit, then I think there's always room for reconciliation in that kind of situation.
Absolutely. And you have to both want to reconnect, for one, but also realizing that you're going to have to find a new normal.
Yeah.
Things are different, but if the friendship is worth salvaging, you just have to be honest. Like, I know things have been different since the breakup. I miss how we used to be. Can we talk about how to move forward? Because you can't go back.
Yeah.
But you can work on moving forward together so that you can salvage your friendship.
Absolutely. And then there's the darkest reason. And that's because now you're the one going through a breakup. And there's one person that knows exactly what it's like. And that's your friend that has also gone through a breakup. That is actually a great time to repair and reconnect. I mean, no one wants to have that as something to have in common, but what a great reason to reach out. Like, hey, I know we haven't talked in a while, but me and John also ended our relationship and would love to talk to you about your experience with divorce. That is the great uniter right there.
So we've covered the tough parts.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about what actually helps a friend get through a breakup. Knowing when to step in and support a friend versus when to set boundaries. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Oof. So in the immediate aftermath, there's a very delicate balance of what to say and what not to say, and sometimes when to say it. So here are some phrases that sound supportive, but actually make things worse. And fear not, we have all said these things at the wrong time. So if you think we're calling you out, we are also calling us out as well.
Yes. So things you do say, this sucks. I'm here for you.
Yeah, perfect. Because you want to validate them. You're acknowledging how shitty the situation is, and you're saying what your part is in it versus saying everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, even if that's true, it's not what they want or need to hear. Everything happens for a reason. Like, how does that help me right now?
The phrase everything happens for a reason should only be said by the person that has had the thing happen to them. I'm allowed to say that 3 years post-breakup, post-whatever trauma, I'm allowed to say, looking back on it, I see everything happens for a reason. You don't get to tell me that.
No.
Okay?
But what you can say is, what do you need right now? And then you offer suggestions, a vent session or a distraction or food.
Yeah. I think you had told me about a time that a friend gave you a multiple choice response of things that they could give to you, and you just had to choose one. I think that's such a great way of showing how you can support, because saying, what do you need, is not really the same as, here are some things, which one of those? It's just easier for the person to choose than to think.
You're laying out what you're able to offer to them.
Right, exactly.
So it's helping everybody, really.
Yeah, it's just making that process easier. Another terrible thing that people say that they don't realize is terrible is, you just need to move on. We just need to move on. Just push forward.
And that's more about the person speaking.
Mm-hmm.
They're tired of hearing about it. They don't want to listen to you anymore. And that can be really hurtful.
Right. You're not validating where that person is in that moment. It's almost like you're saying, this is uncomfy. I don't want to deal with it. So if you could just move on, that'd be great.
Yeah. I'm trying to have fun, and this is not fun.
Right.
I've definitely had situations like that. And, healing isn't instant.
Right.
It's a process. You get better, you get a little worse. And the reason why we made a podcast about friendship is because those are the most important relationships to us in our life. And if that is true, this is not how you show up for someone that you consider family.
Mm-hmm. What are some other phrases you suggest saying?
I appreciate this one just because they acknowledge that it's not helpful. You won't feel like this forever, but I know that doesn't help much right now. I can say that because I've been through that. You can say that because you've been through that. You can't say when. I can't say, I don't know what not forever is for you. But I do know, you can make it to the other side.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And someone can say that to you that has been in the well. I've been in the well, and right now it feels like you're going to be here forever.
Yeah.
And I don't know when you're going to get out, but one day you will, and I'll be here,
Yes.
And they're the ones that can say that to you because they've learned how to get out of the well.
Yeah.
Yes,
totally.
One thing that is always jarring to me, and I have had this happen after breakups, is I never liked them anyway, or good riddance, which I have heard.
Oof.
And I understand the need to validate someone's decision to end a relationship, but it also invalidates why I was in that relationship when you say that. When you say, they were trash, I didn't like them, good riddance. It's like I was also the person that chose to be with them. So you're actually passing judgment on my relationship selection, which does not feel good and makes me feel foolish, actually.
Yeah. And I have said this to a friend, and I thought about it after the fact, like, whoa, that was like way too soon.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I'm justified because I'm 100% on her side.
Yeah.
And I just care about her well-being and her happiness. And that's why I said what I said, but I wish I could take it back because I know it was not helpful in that moment. I did other things to be helpful. I think I redeemed myself, but...
Right. And it's also tricky because they might get back together. And now I know you think that person is trash.
Yep.
And now I'm probably not going to want to hang out with you and that person at the same time. So just reserve those judgments until the person who's gone through the breakup says, I never should have picked him in the first place. And then you can offer that judgment.
Here's a better way to say it. You deserve someone who fully shows up for you.
Ooh, yeah.
Then it's not about the other person. It's just like, I know you deserve more, and that person is out there for you.
Yeah.
So I tried that approach. I feel like I did that with you.
Yeah.
Because your breakup happened after my friend's breakup. I was like, don't do that again, Robin.
Oh, yeah. No, you guys were great with that, of just kind of illuminating, like, no, you're not crazy for wanting those things, and somebody is going to give that to you. So I appreciated that. Kind of different than saying, you should just get back out there, and like pushing someone to date too soon.
I went on my first date post-breakup within, I think it was like 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of felt like just dipping my toes in, but I regretted it so much.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't know it's too soon until you've tried it, and then you're like, nope, absolutely not.
The reason why I had to pull back was because, I was having a good conversation with this guy, but I realized he sounded just like my ex that I had broken up with. And I was like, oh my God, I'm repeating the cycle. Like, I'm drawn to this person who needs saving, and I'm not gonna do that again. So I pumped the brakes. I caught myself.
Good.
I'm really proud of myself for seeing that pattern and cutting it off. Like, this guy really wanted to go on another date with me too. And I was like, sorry, man, you seem great, but you remind me of my ex, and I can't date anyone that reminds me of my ex.
Yeah. Good for you. I'm glad that you did that. I currently have an app on my phone that I can put streaks in. I partly use it to count my days without alcohol, but I recently put in days I've been single, and I just want to see that streak grow and grow. I'm just so happily alone right now, and I want to see 3 digits. Right now we're still at 2.
You're dating yourself.
I'm dating myself. I'm getting to know myself, and I'm just so happily single right now. So do not prevent me from dating a boy right now, please.
Well, I will only encourage you to date yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to start by telling you, the next time you go to a coffee shop or a restaurant, there's what typical 𝗪𝗹 usually gets. What does new 𝗪𝗹 get?
Oh, it's probably just going to a coffee shop in general, because I brew my own at home. So maybe that can be a nice little date I can take myself on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take a book or do some work. I love reading at coffee shops. If you find one that has the cozy chairs.
Yeah.
It's just a nice atmosphere.
What if I read one of those slutty fantasy books?
Yes.
Just put it all out there, let everybody know.
Actually, you could be reading a different book, but put the slutty cover over it anyway.
Yeah.
Just let it be a joke for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
So yeah, instead of empty platitudes, meet your friends where they are emotionally and let them guide the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked about what to say, what not to say when someone is going through a breakup. But I think what really matters is that you just show up for that person. And showing up can look different to different people depending on what they need.
Do they need someone to come over and watch trash TV?
Yeah. You know what's a great example of this, to get back into the pop culture world? is, I mean, everybody knows about 𝗪𝗵𝗿 if you're a girl, even if you don't watch Bravo or Vanderpump Rules. But Tom Sandoval cheated on his longtime partner, Ariana, with her friend, Raquel. Those are the cliff notes. Fall down your own rabbit hole if you want to learn more. But the episode right after they broke up, like raw right after they broke up, is a great representation of how you can be there for your friends, because she had some of her friends come over and their sole job was just to bring the booze. They came over with bottles of wine, bottles of vodka, whatever it took, and just let her cry it out and drink alongside of her to help numb some of these awful feelings of betrayal that she was experiencing. Then you have Kristen Doute, who shows up, pieces of paper that she can write things down on and burn. She has a whole witch ritual that Ariana can do in order to help, like, spiritually move on. And that was the best thing that Kristen Doute could have done for Ariana. So you might be able to get different things from different friends and just let them lead the way as to what they need. Sometimes it could be burning all their clothes. Other times it might be watching trash TV or even really sad movies just so they can cry it out and just get it out of their system. But the best thing you can do is show up. Just remember, at the end of the day, everybody is going to experience heartbreak. The majority of the relationships that people are in are going to end. That's just a simple fact. But if you have strong enough friendships, those can be the ones that see you through to the other side. And you might even find new depths of your friendships because you've gone through these heartbreaks. So if you're in it right now, hang in there. Your friends will see you through, and it gets better.
It does. That's so perfect.
Okay, let's move on to our next segment, our class act of the week. This is where we discuss the classiest thing that we've seen, and this week it is Robin's turn. So Robin, what do you got?
So I'm going to stick with the trend of talking about my family.
Please do.
This week, my class act is my sister, Laura.
Oh.
She is 10 years older than me. I've always looked up to her. She's just a wonderful, caring person. And she loves in a way that I don't think she received and I didn't receive as a child, like to all the people in her family that she loves, like my cousins. We're relatively close. She's super close with them just because she's like, well, I'm going to take care of the family that does want to be in my life.
Mm-hmm.
It's really admirable to see the way she has managed all of these dynamics because it is a lot. And my brother did pass away early last year, and he has 3 kids with 3 different moms, and she is actively trying to be involved in all of their lives to just to provide assistance to these moms and support for these kids who don't have a dad anymore. Like, obviously she can't fill that role, but like, we're just trying really hard to let them know, like, hey, you still have family.
Mm-hmm.
But she is the absolute best at that. Like, I definitely need some work. It's harder for me.
Mm-hmm.
I just think she's amazing and a real class act.
A real class act. Well, cheers to Laura. Very classy thing to do, to open your heart, especially under those circumstances. I'm sure it's confusing probably for those kids and, his former partners. So good for her for leading with love.
Yes. And she's planning my nephew's birthday party next week to top it all off.
Wow. Good for her.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. It is time for Class or Crass, where we ask the fundamental question, is it classy? Robin, what is our scenario this week?
Our scenario this week is playing matchmaker for a newly single friend.
Ugh.
So I'm going to paint a scenario for you.
Okay.
Your friend just got out of a long-term relationship, and you know someone who could be a great match for them. They're not actively looking to date yet, but you think a casual introduction could lift their spirits. Is it classy to play matchmaker in that situation?
That is a good question. I'm trying to think if I've ever tried to play matchmaker before, and I don't know that I have been in that position. So I really have to take a wider lens to tackle this one. Now, I do think timing is everything, right?
Right.
You got to know your friend's own relationship with rebounds. Some people, they need a rebound, okay? They've been dumped or maybe they broke up with someone. And this is not a classy phrase, but I'm sure everyone is familiar with the colloquialism. The best way to get over a guy is to get under another one. Not everybody thinks like that. So yeah, you need to know, is your friend a rebound person? First and foremost.
Yeah. Are they a rebound person? How do you know if you're actually helping them versus pushing them too soon? Because there's also a difference between just wanting to hook up with some people and have fun and like actually having a sit-down date and talking to a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big transition.
A huge transition. And I also like the phrase, the right person at the wrong time is the wrong person.
Yes.
So you might be remembering what your friend is like when they are an emotionally stable person. And that person could be a perfect fit for the friend you want to hook them up with. But are they going to be that person in this moment, fresh breakup? You know, they might have a lot of weird things they need to unpack. They might be lashing out. They could be overly defensive. Maybe they have major trust issues. And let's say they do go on that date and they start to kind of act a little bit crazy. That's just going to put a bad taste in everybody's mouth. So you got to really realize, like, is the person you are trying to set your friend up with, like, is your friend that person that is ready to be set up, you know?
Yes. And I'll take this one step further. My preference, actually, I have two ways of handling this. I've had female friends ask me if I know any single guys because Seth has, like, my whole friend group is married. His whole friend group is not married, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, actually, like, I do know some single guys. And I'll talk about them for a second. And then I'm just like, but you don't want that right now. Because I know that they're a hot mess.
Yeah.
I'm just like, y'all can meet, but I am not going to be the one who, like, pushes you together.
Right.
And second, if I think two people might get along, like, if there's an event where a bunch of friends are getting together, I'll casually invite whoever to that event. And if they start talking, great.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll introduce them, but I am not going to be that pushy friend who's like, hey, have you met so-and-so? Like,
yeah,
she's single now. Like, I'm not going to be that person. Gives me the ick. I don't like it when people do it to me.
Oh, no. When you feel it, like, hey, this is my friend Todd that I was telling you about. You're like, oh, God, there it goes.
Yeah. So is it classy? I would say in most cases, no.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like, you would need to be super involved with the friend that you want to set up on a date. You would, first of all, need to know them really well, know where they're at, and then ask them, would you be willing to go on a blind date? Because I know someone. But if you're not ready, that's okay.
Right.
That's classy.
Yeah, 100%. So don't play matchmaker with a newly single friend, but give your friend some time. And maybe, like you said, just tell them, when you're ready, do I have the person for you?
Yes. It's perfect.
There you go.
Before we go, we want to hear from you. Have a class act of the week, a friendship meet cute, or a class or crass scenario we should discuss? Send us an email at artofclassiness@gmail.com.
Yeah, we love featuring listener stories. And if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure that you're following us on social media. We have an Instagram page and a TikTok page. The handles are the same, @artofclassiness. And make sure that you're subscribed to this podcast. Your ratings and reviews really keep these conversations going, and they also push this podcast out to new listeners. And we want to grow this community. So if you haven't done so, throw us a rating, give us a review. We would be so appreciative.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you guys next time. But remember, classy is a state of mind.
So mind your classiness, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.